Are you serious? Are you serious, guys? Well, we've got some information just now discovered, and it's critical to the Holy Land. And, of course, Vice President Dick Cheney has died. I'm going to tell you all about this in just a second. But first, let me put a shout out, if I could, right now, guys, really, for VislaCopper.com. That's VislaCopper.com. You can click on the link below the video. Matter of fact, I'd like to just share some of this with you, actually. VislaCopper.com. Our future is being built with a metal. We've been using it for centuries. Copper. But the green energy revolution and the AI boom, and it really is been an AI boom, has really put a damper and has caused the world, a demand for more copper like never before. The world supply, it needs it. We are headed for a global copper squeeze. And with prices really extraordinary, really, to be quite honest with you. It's incredible what's going to take place here. But it's moving into the explorers who are making the next big discovery. Smart money is to look at this, okay? Today, we're spotlighting a company that's perfectly positioned to ride this wave. It is Vizsla Copper, publicly traded in Canada under the VCU and in the United States under VCUFF. Now, what makes Vizsla Copper so compelling really is the management. This is the exact same award-winning team that took Vizsla Silver from a very small explorer, which went public at just 15 cents a share, to a billion-dollar silver company that reached a 52-week high, over $7 per share, delivering staggering returns. I mean, for the early investors, guys, this is incredible. They've done it before, and now they're applying that same proven playbook to copper, a market with even greater global demand. This is quite extraordinary. Matter of fact, when I began looking at this company, I realized that Vizsla Copper isn't just a story. Oh, no. It's backed by serious assets, okay? Their Woodjam project in the British Columbia holds a massive historical resource of 1.7 billion pounds of copper. It's a giant district-scale asset that vastly underexplored. But the real game changer this year may be a brand new high-grade discovery at their popular project called Thera. This mineralizing right from the surface, okay? It really is quite extraordinary. Let me tell you something else. On top of that, the Copper View project sits right next door to one of the most significant copper discoveries in recent years by the Kodiak Copper. They are in the right place at the right time with the right team. This isn't just a one shot at a goal. No, guys, seriously, it's a pipeline of massive opportunities. So let's recap this. You have a management team with a $1 billion track record, a flagship project with a massive historical copper resource, and a brand new high-grade discovery with a drill results hitting 237 meters at 0.51% of the copper equivalent. With a market cap of only around $40 million, Vizsla Copper offers a rare ground floor entry point into a story with all the ingredients for a major re-rating. And as the copper squeeze tightens, a company with this combination of assets and leadership won't stay under the radar for long, believe me. If you want to learn more, visit their website at VislaCopper.com. Click on that link below the video and find out more about VislaCopper.com. You'll be glad that you did. All right. Well, let me just tell you what's been going on here, because this is really incredible. Dick Cheney has died. The former vice president of the United States under George W. Bush has died after a long bout of cardiovascular and heart serious complications over most of his adult life, has succumbed to those illnesses and sicknesses, surrounded by his family. Vice President Dick Cheney is dead. We have a report the United States has drafted a resolution. This just came in on Gaza. And this is huge, guys. Huge. Don't forget, you can still get your tickets. Matter of fact, you should go right now and get your tickets for Darkness is Descending, okay? And the people are just saying it's the best, absolute best information ever for a webinar. And so we're so glad that you're really enjoying it. The United States media outlets are reporting that in Washington, D.C., that the Trump administration has presented several UN Security Council members with a draft resolution on an international stabilization force for the Gaza Strip. Under U.S. President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan, the United States and Arab and other nations' forces would be deployed to the enclave of Gaza. But details such as participating countries and the task that they would be doing still remains undecided. According to Axios news website, they reported that the U.S. government yesterday sent several UN Security Council members a draft resolution for the establishment of this security force or stabilization force with a minimum of 2-year mandate. Of course, Gaza would still remain under the ownership of the nation of Israel. But the draft reportedly states that the task for the international force would involve protecting the Gazan citizens, also training a new Palestinian police force, and ensuring the process of a demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. It also would include that it mandates that Hamas must be disarmed and that Gaza would remain under the ownership of the nation of Israel. Now, Axios has quoted a U.S. official as saying that the draft has the goal of voting to establish the force in the coming weeks and deploying the first troops to Gaza by January of 2026. But Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said yesterday that after the meeting with the officials from the Arab and other countries, that the task and the mandate for the force should be decided by the UN Security Council and not by the Trump plan. But Sierra Leone's UN ambassador, Michael Kanu, told reporters yesterday that the country is ready to work with any members that put forward a resolution. Sierra Leone holds the presidency of the Security Council for the month of November, now of 2025. So what does this all mean? Well, we dug a little deeper and we found that, yes, in the 20-point plan that would end the Israel-Hamas war, President Donald Trump has explicitly called for and is working to establish an international stabilization force, also known as the ISF, for the Gaza Strip area. The United States has been circulating a draft among UN Security Council's resolution to provide a mandate for this force. The mandate would be this, that the ISF, the International Security Force, primary goals are to provide security, oversee the demilitarization of Gaza, including dismantling Hamas military infrastructure, and help train a new Palestinian police force and facilitate a staged Israeli withdrawal slowly from the Gaza Strip militarily, but the ownership would remain under Israel. Now, the force is intended to be comprised of Arab and other international partners, with the United States ruling out American troops on the ground in Gaza. There would be no U.S. troops on the ground in Gaza. Countries like Turkey, Indonesia, the United Arab Emirates, and Azerbaijan have been mentioned as potential participants, though formal commitments and details are still being worked out. Now, who would govern this? The plan proposes a temporary Palestinian technocratic government for day-to-day services with oversight from a new international transitional body known as the Board of Peace, which would be chaired by Donald J. Trump. Israel would have a seat at the table. Of course, it's their land. And here's some of the challenges, though. Key questions remain regarding the confirmed participants. Funding. Who's going to fund this thing? What are the detailed missions? What is the purpose of it? And the potential for resistance from Hamas, which would be expected to disarm under this plan. Some potential contributing countries require a UN mandate, which has been a point of contention given Israel's historical criticism of the United Nations' role in that region. So Israel's saying, look, we're all for working with you with an international police or international stabilization force. We still own the land. We're okay with the Palestinian technocratic governance board with Trump in charge of it, managing the day-to-day. But we have to still have control of the border of the Gaza Strip that borders the rest of the nation of Israel. So this is a very complex situation. Now, I've also been digging deeper into this story because it's very fluid and a lot of moving parts. Now, according to other reports, the United States admits it may need to ask the United Nations for a mandate for an international stabilization force to enter Gaza, a move that somewhat confounds the Trump administration's goal towards an international organization. But the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. was in the process of standing up a civil-military coordination center to monitor the Gaza ceasefire and would then consider going to the United Nations potentially and getting the international mandate, building an international defense security force. U.S. President Donald Trump's 20-point ceasefire plan for Gaza envisions an Arab and Muslim international force deployed to the enclave, with U.S. officials have said they are in discussions with Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Jordan, Indonesia, and Azerbaijan, which would be making up the international force. But according to Middle Eastern news media outlets, they're reporting that Egypt has publicly and privately has lobbied for a UN mandate. Egypt has also asked for U.S. troops to deploy to the enclave in the hope that it would, persuade the Israeli ceasefire violations would be looked at. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said, this is impossible and we will not do it. And he has ruled that the possibility of that, he's ruled that out. But the Trump administration says to secure a UN mandate would be laden with irony, given the fact that the hostility to the organization, particularly regarding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the war in Gaza. Trump saying the UN oversight will not work. During his speech at the UN General Assembly, Trump mocked the United Nations, saying it used empty words and that it don't solve wars. When the escalator then carrying Trump to the General Assembly hall stopped working, the U.S. president accused the body of sabotaging his escalator, and his administration threatened to investigate the mechanical failure. Earlier this year, the Trump administration slapped sanctions on the United Nations special reporter on Israel and Palestine. And Marco Rubio even accused the UN of open contempt for the United States and Israel and for the West. So the Trump administration also suspended funding to the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Relief and withdrew from the United Nations Human Rights Council. Trump doesn't trust the UN at all and doesn't want them to be in charge of it or have any oversight. But in Gaza, the United States has worked with Israel to push for a widely discredited Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to take over the aid distribution in Gaza. The United States mercenaries manning the GHF aid sites has been accused of attacking starving Palestinians, of which the Trump administration says is ludicrous. Trump was forced to backtrack, though, on the GHF in his ceasefire plan for Gaza, with explicitly recognizing that the United Nations and its agencies should go ahead and distribute the aid in Gaza. This move appeared to come at the request of the Arab and Muslim states. Now the same appears to be happening with the International Stabilization Force Trump wants to deploy to Gaza. Some of the countries that said they would help are going to require that the international mandate be in order, that the orders come from the United Nations and not from Trump's peace board. Experts say that the Arab and Muslim states want the United Nations seal of approval to gain legitimacy with their populations and the Palestinians in Gaza. So in other words, the Gazans do not want the United States or the Israelis to be the ones calling all the shots. If the Arab nations are going to help, they're saying the mandate has to come from the United Nations. We can convince our populations or our civilians of our countries that it's okay for us to get in there and help because it's coming from the leadership, is coming from the UN, not from Trump, not from the Americans, and not from the Israelis. Israel says, we're willing to work with all these nations who want to help establish a secure and stable region, but the land still belongs to Israel. So, guys, this is a very, very serious situation that's developing here because you have a fight. I knew this was coming. When the push came to shove, who was truly going to manage Gaza? Who first will own Gaza? Who will manage Gaza? And who will call the shots? Israel's made it plain that they own Gaza. Trump wants the other Arab nations to participate in the International Stabilization Force. But Trump wants to be sure that it's the Americans and the West that manages that oversight. But the Arab nations are saying, we'll do it, but we want the United Nations to manage the oversight. And we'd rather not have any Americans or Israelis boots on the ground. Israel says, we're going to secure our borders for the rest of our nation, and we still own Gaza. It is still ours. And, of course, nobody's even talking about Judea and Samaria right now. This is a very convoluted and complicated mess. And I just don't see how it's going to work out because there's too many people who refuse to allow Israel to have full ownership. They don't want to recognize Israel as a nation. Trump is trying to force the rest of the Arab world to accept Israel as a nation and work together for peace. These nations are still saying, we'll work for helping to stabilize the region, but we're still not ready to accept Israel as a nation, and we would rather have this plan, that this thing be ruled by the UN. Well, we know the United Nations is as crooked as a dog's leg, and nobody believes them and nobody trusts them. Meanwhile, Hamas is still hanging on to about eight more bodies that have, and some reports say, no, Hamas is still hanging on to 13 more bodies. Now, we know that 3 Israeli bodies of hostages was returned yesterday. I believe we're down to about 8 bodies to go of hostages. But so here you are. You got 8 more dead hostage bodies that haven't been returned, and Hamas has not laid down their guns. And I think you have to give them a deadline. I think you got to say to Hamas, here's the deal. We're giving you till this day to give all of the last remaining bodies and lay down your weapons and surrender. If you don't, on this certain day, Israel's coming back in. And they're coming in with guns blazing. We're going to eliminate you completely. We don't want to do it this way. This isn't what we agreed to. This isn't what you agreed to. But you haven't done your part. We let 2,000 of your murderers and attackers and those even guilty of butchering people on October 7th, we let them all go. We let the food flow in. We backed Israel off to a new blue line. And you still haven't surrendered, and you still haven't given the last 8 bodies, and you still don't want to participate. So we're giving you a deadline. I think that's what I would do. But I'm not the president of the United States, and I don't know all the information, obviously, and he is trying with everything in himself to bring this to a peaceful conclusion. But when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh like a whirlwind. And that's really where we're at. This is what we've just discovered, is that the United Nations still wants to have control, and the Arab nations want the United Nations to have the control, and America doesn't want to let the UN have control because they can't trust them, and Israel doesn't want UN in control of the Gaza Strip because they've done that, been there, done that. You see what happened. So, and what about Hamas? They still haven't laid down their weapons. There's still bodies of hostages still not returned. They've not done their end of the bargain. They agreed to it. They still haven't laid down. And I don't believe they ever will. If they're not forced to, if Israel isn't going ahead and allowed to go all the way, I don't think these guys will ever lay down their weapons. And in the webinar, you can get the ticket for the webinar right now and be watching it. One of the speakers in it is IDF Lieutenant Colonel Amit Grenfell, who explains and breaks it down what it's like to be a soldier in Gaza, what it's like to be a hostage in Gaza, what it's like to be a family member in Israel of hostages, or a family member in Israel of those that were butchered and slaughtered, or be a family member who was attacked on October 7th. What it means to deal with everybody in the region surrounding you, hating you. Guys, seriously. I mean, we're living in the last days. Saturday was silent, and surely it was through. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? And Friday's disappointment is Sunday's empty tomb. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the sound of a dry bones rattling. This is the praise, make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Pentecostal fire, stirring something new. You're not gonna run out of miracles anytime soon. Your resurrection power, it runs in my veins too. I believe there's another miracle here in this room. This is the sound of dry bones rattling.
make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. My God is able to save and deliver and heal and restore anything that He wants to. Just ask the man who was thrown on the bones of Elisha if there's anything that He can do. Just ask the stone that was rolled at the tomb.
Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I am the Lord, and I will put my spirit in you, and I will place you in your own land, and you shall live. I will place you in your own land. You shall live, 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 live. Oh, that's right. Somebody shout right now. Dry bones live. I mean, it is unbelievable what we're dealing with here. But wow, yes, the Middle East is up for grabs. No doubt about that. I want to thank all of you for being here right now. As I've just said, Trump's plan for the 20-point peace plan, yeah, we're right down to the wire now. Hamas has to give back about 8 more dead bodies of hostages and lay down their arms. Trump is saying we need to send in an international stabilization force made up of Arab nations to help keep the peace, manage the system, while a new civilization can be developed. Israel says that's fine, but we own the land, and but the stabilization, the nations who would make up this stabilization forces are saying, we want the United Nations in charge, not the peace, what was called the Board of Peace, not Trump and the Board of Peace. We want it to be under the UN. Israel's saying, you do that, it's pretty well useless. Trump is saying, we got to use international forces, but this Board of Peace has still got to be there for the governing. So this is getting very sticky. And what about the fact Hamas doesn't lay down their arms? And they still haven't get back the rest of the dead bodies. So they haven't done what they're supposed to do. So, and who trusts the United Nations? This is why my book is coming out. This brand new book's coming out. Trump versus the Beast. Guys, you can pre-order. Get your pre-order for the book right now. Trump versus the Beast. Coming out soon this spring. And I want you to make sure you are on the copy. Get a copy of this. Get your pre-order in today. Help us to drive that book to number 1. And we believe it can. With your help, we can get there, all right? And it is a sequel to Revelation 9:11. Now, I would like to read a little bit out of Revelation 9:11, if I could, just to remind you what we wrote and when this book came out last March of 2024, 18 months ago, that very powerful what we wrote has been coming to pass. There's no doubt about that. Been coming to pass. And so let me just read here a little bit, because the United States is certainly involved in that whole process. I want to read to you what I wrote here. I think I'm going to read from page 31, again, from Revelation 9:11, and the next book, Trump versus the Beast, is the sequel to this book. But New World Order Rising. I wrote, today the world is caught in a vacuum of evil, ushering humanity into a new world order, a global government with one economy and a single religious system that the Bible says will be ruled by an antichrist and false prophet. You can find that in Revelation chapter 11, okay? Revelation chapter 11. Now, world leaders, including Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, American President Woodrow Wilson, George H.W. Bush, and even President Joe Biden have often called for a new world order. Now is the time when things are shifting, Joe Biden told a group of CEOs from General Motors, Apple, and Amazon. This was back in 2022. There's going to be a new world order out there, he said, and we've got to lead it. And we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. At the secretive Trilateral Commission's first global planetary meeting that was held in India in March of 2023, a speaker who we cannot identify, according to the commission rules, said this year, 2023, is year 1 of this new world order. Okay, so I guess he was thinking the 7 years leading to the year 2030. Meanwhile, the Council on Foreign Relations recently asked foreign policy experts to rank the top global threats, including the danger of nuclear war. The Council on Foreign Relations is an elite private club that functions as the brain trust, command center, and public face of the deep state, whose globalist members fill top posts in big government, big business, big media, big tech, big labor, and big pharma. It is reported that which highlighted that China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran is the biggest threats to America, to Israel, and other Western nations. As Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping held a 2-day meeting last spring in which President Xi made a strong show of solidarity with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now there are changes that haven't happened in 100 years, Xi told Putin. When we are together, we drive these changes. I agree, Putin said. And President Xi then responded, take care of yourself, dear friend, please. Given that President Xi and President Putin control the world's second and third most powerful militaries in the world behind the United States, Earth is becoming an increasingly dangerous place. President Xi recently brokered a historic peace accord between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and reestablishing diplomatic relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia after 7 years of rancor, capitulating China into the role of a global truce broker. But this left Israel, which was attempting to broker its own peace deal with Saudi Arabia, on the verge, teetering on a war with Iran as the odd man out. Now, we know what happened. Later in 2023, we know what happened. Israel got attacked on October 7th, 2023. Anti-Semitism rose throughout the entire globe, and Israel was fighting for its survival, and the United States had to intervene to help Israel defeat its enemies of Hamas, of Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, Islamic Jihad in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, the Iranians, the radical Shiites out of Iraq, the radical Shiites in Syria, and the radical Shiites and other regions of the Middle East. This is a very serious time we're in. So when we wrote this book, Revelation 9:11, and we brought it out, like I said, in March of 2024, we were telling you where things were at that moment and where it was going. And exactly where what we wrote and said where it was going is exactly what happened. Israel was attacked in October of 2023. Russia continues to fight with Ukraine, and Israel is still trying to finish off this Hamas situation. Here we are in the fall of 2025. That's why my new book, Trump versus the Beast, is so important, to look at where we will be and where we will be going in the next 4 years of this incredible prophetic time we're in. So we want to be sure everyone understands that and prepare people for that. So there's a couple things to do. One, if you haven't got the book Revelation 9:11, you should go do that right now. It's available at Amazon.com, or you can just go to my website and order, and I will send you a signed personal copy and send it directly to you with a private note to you. I will mail that to you today if you want to order it right now. You could also get the webinar. The webinar was incredible. It is called Darkness Descending, with some of the best prophetic information from Brandon Biggs and Mike from around the world and John the AI guy and Russ Dizdar from the archives and Dr. Lester Sumrall and on and on and on. Lieutenant Colonel Amit Grenfield, Dr. Joy Pugh, Rabbi Kurt Schneider, and on and on and on, okay? Now, please, I'm telling you, it's so important. And you could also be pre-ordering the book, Trump versus the Beast. And I'm telling you now, get that pre-ordered and be ready when it ships. It is going to be huge as a sequel to Revelation 9:11. But it'll be packed with information I got from my government insiders, information that Troy Anderson and I have been gathering over the last few months as we're continuing to write the book. It's coming out in the spring of 2026. And also information from the prophecies of the Bible that we are bringing into it to help people better understand the time we're in. We're in the last days, folks. Give your life to Jesus Christ. He's coming soon, and you don't want to be left behind. Things are happening quickly, and with the death of Vice President Dick Cheney, it has left a major void in the darkness.